by popular demand and not just contractual obligations, it's another episode of Sequel Pitch, the podcast where four friends pitch ideas to sequels to a movie that doesn't already have one yet. I am your host, Andy Henry, and the strange aliens from outer space joining me this week are the XL Viking, Matt Rushton.
Yo, what's up?
Drew Toynbee.
I didn't say anything because it's like the movie.
Oh, I get it. Well done. Hey. And Ross Harmston.
Hello.
This week, with A Quiet Place 2 just around the corner, we thought now would be a good time to put forward our ideas for the sequel. That's right, this week we watched the 2018 horror A Quiet Place, written by Brian Woods, Scott Beck, and John Krasinski, who also starred and directed the movie. If you haven't had a chance to see the movie, don't worry, as we will always do our standard 60-second to 5-minute synopsis. We open on the 89th day of an alien invasion that has annihilated the majority of the world's population. These aliens are blind but hypersensitive to sound and will attack anything that makes a noise, meaning people communicate through sign language. Looking for supplies in a deserted American town, we meet Lee and his wife Evelyn, played by Krasinski and Emily Blunt, with their daughter and two young boys. The youngest, Bo, finds a toy plane, but Lee takes the toy away and removes the batteries. Regan, the daughter, gives the toy back to Bo, who also takes the batteries, causing the plane to make a noise. This gives away their location to an alien who kills Bo moments before his father could have grabbed him. Over a year later, we see Regan struggling with the guilt over her brother's death and Evelyn in the final stages of pregnancy. Lee spends a lot of time in the basement trying to make radio contact with the outside world, while also trying to help Regan here by upgrading her cochlear implants with mini amplifiers found on their supply runs. But the devices never seem to work. Later that day, Regan runs away from home to visit Bo's memorial as Lee takes Marcus to a waterfall where he shows his son that the sound of the water masks their voices, meaning they're safe from the aliens. They have a heart-to-heart about Bo's death where Marcus tells his father he needs to let his daughter know he still loves her. While alone at the house, Evelyn goes into labour. She changes the exterior lights to red, signalling to Lee something is wrong. Lee tells Marcus to create a distraction by setting off fireworks, while Lee runs back to the house. When he gets there, he tells Evelyn that he will find and save their children. Regan and Marcus are hiding on top of a grain silo when the pair fall in. The sound of the silo door falling and nearly hitting the kids attracts an alien, but Regan's cochlear implant reacts to the proximity of the alien by emitting a high-frequency sound that causes the alien to react, and that bursts a hole in the silo wall. Reunited with Lee, he tells his kids to hide under a pickup truck, but as Lee turns around, he is slashed by the alien. Marcus screams, which causes the alien to attack the car he and Regan are hiding in. A wounded Lee gets up and sees no other option. He signs to Regan that he loves her and always has, before screaming and drawing the alien away from the kids, resulting in his death. The family reunite at the farmhouse and try to hide, but another alien enters. Regan realizes that the sound made by the implant hurts it and places it on a nearby microphone, amplifying the feedback. The alien is hurt so much it exposes its flesh, which Evelyn shoots with her shotgun. The sound of the shotgun attracts more aliens, but with the new knowledge of their weakness, Evelyn cocks her shotgun and prepares to fight. Right, boys, what do we think?
Oh, it's blooming good.
I've seen it before, so I have the benefit of that, but it was such a good movie.
Yeah.
Should we start with the opening scene, the death of the little Bo?
Well, that's 10 minutes into the movie. There's 10 minutes of kind of scene setting first, which is amazing. Straight away you're introduced to this filmic concept and filmic theme that they run throughout with Regan, where whenever the camera's focused on her, there is no sound. It is audio silence. And then when it's anyone else in the family, you've got your background noise, you hear everything. And I think as a concept, it is just such a simple yet effective tool that they run throughout the film. Great setting of the scene, great setting of the family. It's a genius open, and that shock 10 minutes in, the first time you watch it, you're like, holy shit, they've just gone and done that. And then I think it sets a benchmark for the film that never really drops. For me, I thought this was a fantastic, not just horror, but a drama as well.
I agree. This is a film that, for me, is up there with Avengers Endgame because of the experience of watching it in a cinema full of people. And watching it on a small screen in your house is good in part because you are reminded of that experience. Because it's a real cliche to say it about this film, but my experience was literally true. Most films, if there's a quiet scene, you can hear people talking, you can hear people rustling their sweets. and I saw this at the View in Longwell Green in Bristol, and it was a pretty packed house. And within like a minute of this movie starting, it was absolutely silent, and I've never experienced anything like it. An entire room of people so quiet and so tense, and not knowing what's going to happen in this film and where the jump scares come in. It almost feels more like a thriller than a horror, because the creatures are on screen for so little time, and it's all about this sense, this fear of making noise and being in a room full of people, watching a film that is so effective at instilling that feeling in its audience through the performances and the cinematography deserves all the plaudits it can get. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a very, very good film. Yeah, I don't think it's very horror. I think it's more thriller than horror. They've got some lovely scenes in it. You know, the scene where John Krasinski's in behind the waterfall. That's a lovely scene. And his performance in general. Well, both of them actually. It's Emily Blunt, isn't it?
Yeah.
But like
Husband and wife.
Yeah, John Krasinski in particular, I think because everyone just knows him as a guy that is a comedy actor, especially from the Office, you know, and he hasn't really I don't think he'd been in anything really like that.
Not massive, I don't think.
Yeah, like that's like before he did that, and seeing him in that role, like he's just phenomenal in it. He's just so good. Like he's got such good range, and that scene, like I wish I saw it at the cinema, because I think like Drew, it would have been really good. I worry that it's the cinema that you go to that it's like that, you know, kind of like you know, potluck if you get those people who are just constantly talking. But hopefully, you know, it's good. It's a tense film for people to not speak. But yeah, I think when I watched it for the first time, I thought that bit where he like screams is such a good moment as well. Like, you know, where he sacrifices himself for his kids. Yeah, I thought, I really enjoyed it. I like the style of it as well. You haven't really seen a lot of stuff like that before, you know. You have a lot of music to build the tension and things like that, whereas they don't have much of it really.
No, which brings me on to another question I have: is would you think this movie would have benefited from no music at all and no subtitles?
Well, unless people spoke a new sign language, you'd need subtitles for that.
Yeah.
So I think, but in terms of music, like I think that it does benefit from music. I think if it was totally silent all the way throughout the whole movie, it would detract. I think it needs some music in some parts,
build the atmosphere a little bit.
Yeah, especially because like it's got bits where, you know, there is still speaking, and there is still, like Matt said, there is still external like noises and stuff. Go on, Drew. Sorry.
I feel like the use of music in this film was just right. It could have been overdone, but it has the restraint to let the silent moments be silent. And so when the music comes in, it is only for the really, really evocative moments, like the moments where it really is needed.
Yeah, it just helps it push the emotions a little bit further.
Yeah, and I think, well, yeah, I was about to say, I think it might be quite unsettling not having music, but again, there are large stretches of the film where it doesn't have music, and I think that is one of the things that adds to the tension of the whole movie. As far as removing the subtitles for the ASL, I'd be interested to try it, because I imagine the performances are strong enough that you would actually be able to follow pretty much what's going on
Well, I think it was either
Regardless.
Krasinski or someone else who wanted to release it with no subtitles. So basically, when they either they watched it or was one of the first like viewings, they realized just in the scene where he's explaining the cochlear implant, like what he's done and stuff like that, and she's kind of saying it doesn't work. They said it just didn't hit as much without subtitles, so they put it in there, and then they were like, well, we may as well just have it in all the rest, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the funny bits of trivia I was thinking about, though, if you think about John Krasinski being just in comedy, during one of the opening screenings of this, everyone was outside, obviously, and they heard the audience erupt into laughter during a supposed to be scary bit. And they all rushed in thinking, what the hell's going on? And they realised the CGI hadn't been completely finished, or in that bit it hadn't. And it was John Krasinski chasing John Krasinski in a CGI, CGI monster mask. Which
That's
wow,
quite good.
yeah. What do we think of the aliens? I mean, it's not an alien movie, but what do we think of the design and the weakness?
Yeah, they remind me of the Lickers from Resident Evil. They kind of look a little bit like those.
Yeah,
But yeah, again, like, I think that they did it well in the start of it, where you literally see a millisecond of it when it takes the boy off, like, to the side. I think they did it well. I think too much of it would have probably, it wouldn't have been as thrillery as it could have been. As it was, sorry, if they had shown more of the alien. Yeah.
All right, boys. Final thoughts and scores.
I love it. I think it's a great movie. Something that I hadn't seen before. That's why it stands out to me as a classic. A classic, if you can call it that.
Here we go.
I love I love it all. I love it all. So I'm going to give it 5 John Krasinski's trying to find his lips whilst saying shh out
he can
of
never quite
5.
get the thing wrong perfectly, can he?
That's going to be my 5.
Drew?
Yeah, final thoughts, same as Ross. It is fantastically crafted, note perfect. There's only one thing that I've ever thought of, or there are a couple of things that I thought of that I would change. One, those raccoons are very good at being noisy and surviving that long. Surely all the noisy raccoons would have already been killed off. And second, when John Krasinski dies, when he sacrifices himself, it always bugged me that he does this primal scream where he could shout that he loves them, or like, tell your mum I love her, or I love you all. And I don't know why that idea got in my head, but it niggles at me. And so if our scoring convention allowed me to give this like 4.99, I would, but because we're doing it in 0.25 increments, I'm going to go with 4.75 out of 4.75 impaled noisy raccoons out of 5.
Matt?
Okay, I love the film. It goes without saying, the performances are stellar. The kids, we talked a lot about Krasinski and Blunt's performance. The kids held their own against them as well, I think. It's worth crediting that the acting throughout was brilliant. I'm going to be slightly more cynical. The horror genre and whatnot I love the genre. I'm going to score it 4.5 out of 5. 4.5 deadly nails out of 5 sticking out of the steps. Because that scene makes me cringe. We didn't, and that is something. Followed by the labour scene. And it's only because it only gets marked down 0.5 because I do think that it's slightly off kilter on a genre. Like I think we've said we don't like. I wouldn't call it a horror. I'd call it a thriller. I think that is the only thing that it's in encompassing more than one genre. It doesn't stamp itself with something. But that is me literally being really, really finicky. As a performance and as a movie, it is stellar, but I'll give it 4.5 just to be slightly critical.
Yeah, I see where you come from, Matt. I've kind of got the same inklings regarding the genre and stuff. A few things like Drew as well, where like I think at one point he was making a fire, and I think that would be quite loud. Or when the kids don't drive, but when they take the car home, just I don't know. I thought that would probably create enough noise for an alien to get them. But I loved it. Matt took my funny thing. I can't think of anything on the spot, so I'm just going to say 4.75 out of 5. Yeah, can't think of anything. So 4.75 for me. What's that then, Drew? Altogether, that's a pretty high one.
Altogether, that has come straight in joint second place with last week's film at an average of 4.75.
Nice. We need to get more bad films. I like dissing bad films.
So just 0.06 stars behind Inside Out, tying with Hot Fuzz.
Feel bad now.
There we have a definite recommendation from the Sequel Pitch Boys. All right, boys, let's turn the frequency up to 11 as it's time to get your sequels pitched.
All
It's a
right.
good film.
Yeah.
All right, let's have Drew Toynbee to start, please, this week.
Oh, hello.
Hello. So, Drew, whenever you're ready, please.
Okay,
entertain
thank
us.
you. I went with A Quiet Place Part 2.
Okay.
The part 2 being quite a specific choice. And maybe we will come on to that later, who knows. So, my sequel picks up exactly where the last movie finished. It's complete blackness. You hear the first pull of the cocking handle on the shotgun going down, and then the image comes in as it racks forwards again. And then you have the opening action set piece taking place as the two monsters, and then a third one that you see on the security cameras at the end as sort of coming into the farmhouse, and you have them like barricading the basement to buy themselves some time. They're breaking in, they turn the machine on, they kill the first one, it falls on the machine, they have to try and reload the shotgun and fix the machine in silence, the baby starts screaming, etc, 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 but they persevere and they win, and then you have titles Quiet Place Part 2. Bit of a time jump to reflect the increasing age of the child actors. Basically, they're going to look significantly different by the time we get to filming our sequel, even though I know they filmed the sequel that's coming out like 2 years ago, so it won't have been that long. They've stayed on the farm for a few years and sort of just trying to stay safe and trying to survive, but they decide they want to show this weapon to other people and to find more people to spend time with. Also add in a little sort of note that shows the new toddler. I think he's called Lee Jr. personally.
Oh.
Whenever the toddler makes noise, they like punish, like not badly, but they reprimand the toddler a little bit to fill that plot hole of how would you teach a kid to be quiet. So it's like training a puppy, and so the kid gets rewarded when it's silent, and anytime it makes a noise there's a little punishment just to fill that plot hole. They've all read up on Lee's plans and all the like textbooks and everything that he had about the cochlear implant, and so they know that if they're going to replicate the weapon and try and make it more portable, they need some more equipment. So Reagan and Marcus, being a bit older, go on a trip for a few days to a nearby city to get supplies, while Evelyn stays with Lee Jr. And so the film follows the kids in most part for this section, and they're like arguing over who should be in charge. And Marcus is kind of really wants to be in charge. Eventually Reagan lets him, but then he panics when they see a monster hunting another couple of people. The people silently signal to the kids to come with them to their camp, but they don't go. There's a good chase and escape scene. The kids don't go with them, but the others leave instructions on how to find them before they escape. And the kids get all the gear, go back to the farm. They make the portable version using like a megaphone and a load of solar-powered power banks, like built into a backpack or something. And then they all sort of get set up and they leave and head for this camp. During the trip, it's uneventful until they run into a couple of sort of really ragged-looking women, and they look really like terrified and nervous of Marcus, and he's still trying to take charge, and so he goes to them and is trying to kind of explain and get them to calm down, and they freak out. They're about to attack him, and so Reagan, who's carrying the shotgun because Evelyn was carrying Lee Jr., has to shoot both of them, because one of them goes for Marcus. She shoots the one who goes for him, and then the other one goes to attack her, and so she has to shoot her too. Reagan's obviously like horrified. Evelyn is feeling awful because she let this child have a shotgun and it had to be used, and Marcus is like even more just like enraged at life. Eventually they get to the camp. There's a big standoff at the gate. Marcus keeps putting himself in danger and wants to stand up to people, and he keeps escalating situations, but they are eventually allowed in. But Evelyn feels like something's a bit off, and so she keeps the weapon a secret. They get taken to an area of this prison where people are allowed to talk, so down in the basement where the solitary confinement cells used to be or something. They're welcomed, but everything still feels a bit weird. And effectively, it's going to turn out the camp is a cult. And without making it too explicit, it's implied that they're forcing women to procreate, to repopulate the human race. And they're enslaving people to, like, grow their food, or just killing people who don't agree. And Marcus is kind of taken in by these, like, powerful men who are running this whole situation. And while Reagan and Evelyn kind of stand up to it, but are kind of imprisoned and have to like work in a field, and there's constant threat. And eventually Marcus will kind of see through the toxic masculinity of these men, and eventually will get the weapon, summon a load of monsters and free as many prisoners as he can, but then give control of the weapon to Evelyn and his sister. And Reagan will learn that sometimes she will have to fight to survive, even if it's awful and hard. Marcus learns that he needs to sit back and take orders, and that he doesn't need to be the man of the family because he's still a kid just because his dad's not there. And all of the people they freed, or a lot of them, manage to escape, and they decide instead of looking for more civilization out there, they bring people to the farm and make the farm safe and build their own new civilization there and try and summon people there and have it as a safe haven. And that's the end.
So, first question, I guess is kind of a broad one, and it will be to all three of you, is how will you keep basically the tone of the first one? Are you going to bring in any new techniques? Are we going to have, say, same jump scares, more, less?
Yeah, I'm seeing this as being, that's why I went with the part 2 of the title. That's worked perfectly. Thank you for that question, Andy. I would want it to feel, hopefully to feel almost like just a continuation of the first film. And because the first film is so much about being parents and caring for your kids, helping your kids to grow up and be safe, and so I thought this one could be about those fears that people have about their kids now, of kids having enough self-confidence or falling in with the wrong crowd or various other things like that. So thematically I would want it to feel like you could sit down and watch the two back to back and they would feel almost as one movie.
Oh, very nice.
So very similar in
anything new?
Construction.
Off the top of your head, I know I didn't give this any time, but
more talking.
Yeah,
I would have enough of the prison be there so that again, when they get to this cult and everyone's speaking, hopefully, when you've been watching a film for an hour and 20 minutes, when that starts happening, it feels jarring, but then maybe it feels quite liberating, and hopefully that can be a journey that Marcus goes on, or the audience goes on with Marcus.
Let's talk about Marcus then. So, when he gets taken in by these powerful people, does he go through a little story of himself? Does he start to tell women what to do before realizing, it's wrong? And also, do Evelyn and Regan try and break out or anything?
I think they will have mini narratives during that time, whatever it is that they're fighting against. I was imagining something along the line, like I struggled. If I was actually writing the script, I would try and find the balance between showing the threat and how horrible it is, but without making it too explicit. And so basically I didn't want to be doing my pitch and saying, yeah, there's this one guy who has designs on Evelyn or, God forbid, on Reagan, because that's awful, and I feel like making that too explicit would just be a step too far for the film. But something along those lines, and likewise, I know it went quite quickly in the pitch, but the idea is that Marcus goes on this journey of almost properly buying into this before something manages to snap him out of it.
Do you think what that something is?
Initially I was thinking that it would be him seeing something awful happening to Evelyn or Reagan, but then if it was that, I would want him to be called out on that, because one of the most annoying things about toxic masculinity and misogyny in general is when people are like, oh well, when I had a daughter, like as a man who has a daughter, I'd be outraged by that, and people who only learn to respect women when they have a daughter or if they have a sister, and it's like, oh, so if you didn't have either of those things, you'd just continue to be shit. And so it could be that it was when he saw something to his own family, but I would want him to be called out for that. And so I think it could work either way. It could work him seeing it happening to a stranger and it's just something that's so awful that it snaps him out of it, or it's something that happens to a member of his family and you find a way to comment on it being like, oh, so you didn't care until it was someone who was close to you. That's not cool, dude.
Yeah.
But there we go. It could be either of those.
Okay,
but of course, I've just written a pitch, not a script.
Hey, don't you steal my
He knew
lines.
that was coming. He knew it was coming. Last quick question. If this cult was going to have one leader, basically, you said a few powerful men, but if he was going to have, say, one leader, who do you imagine playing him?
I was actually kind of picturing John Hamm.
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
Because mainly inspired by his performance in Baby Driver, because he is so good at playing like a little bit crazy but still cool and charming, and then the switch going in his brain and he's properly scary. So yeah, I think I'd tap John Hamm for that.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Drew. Let's move
Thank
on
you.
to Mr. Viking himself, Mr. Matthew Rustin.
Okay, so the title of my movie sequel is The Quiet Place. Stepping up here. Alrighty, so the movie opens with silence. The camera is quite high, like drone shot camera, panning across a field with lights in the distance. Every so often we snap cut to within the fields and it's like tall grass, and we'll just hear screeching noises as something whooshes from camera right to camera left across the screen in the same direction that the camera is panning, kind of creating the idea, obviously, that they're travelling in a certain direction. What we reveal as the camera pans is a makeshift camp and the grass rustling towards it from a number of angles. All of a sudden, as the grass begins to clear and 5 creatures burst through the grass line, there is a cacophony of feedback and static that kind of feeds through the loudspeaker system, and the creatures will scream and they fall down stunned. Then we see a team run out from the gates of the camp and shoot them all in the revealed soft tissue in their heads, very exactly like they did in the first movie. We cut to a lady, Emily Blunt, close up as she harbours that rage towards the dead creature that she stood over, and we fade to The Quiet Place. We learn that Evelyn and her kids were rescued after the camp picked up on the radio waves and the bursts of feedback through their ham radio. Cue a montage or exposition scene where the camp learns of the technique to stun the creatures and incorporates that into their defences through loudspeaker systems. We also learn that this camp's connected via the ham radio or what have you to a number of other sites through Morse code predominantly, but also with this new adapted defence, they're feeling more confident. They're starting to whisper and they're starting to have conversations using actual voice. The these sites suggest that they should form a new government, that the camps could all form together to make a city. And there's an abandoned military facility to the north of the camp, the one that Emily Blunt's in, that Evelyn's in. And it's big enough to house hundreds, perhaps even thousands, and a full security in the form of, big defensive constructs, weaponry, etc. And there was a scouting party from one of the other camps near it that confirmed that the base is still there and intact. So the end of Act 1 and going into Act 2, the camp that Blunt's in uses modified vehicles. They attach speakers to the outside of it, and they use radio and frequency and whatnot. They're all playing with the items to make static and to use that feedback. And the convoy, they head off towards this military base. What we kind of see is, to create some tension, we see a car in the middle of the pile run out of fuel, and immediately it's attacked by a pack of the creatures. It's like they're watching and waiting. And the second that the baby lamb reveals itself to be vulnerable, it attacks, classic alligatory style. Essentially, like, the convoy does make it to the base without too much jeopardy, but we need to add some just to kind of create that vibe that they're taking big risks here. And a few of the other convoys appear as well, so they're all connected, they're all good, but there's a couple that don't turn up. They realise, the stories are circulating about this new creature that seemed to be immune to this high-pitched frequency, but no one obviously lived to tell the tale, so this is just feedback from things they heard on radios and stories and telling tales. But either way, the HQ serves as a great vantage point. They set it up, the defences are rigged, the tannoy system, the loudspeakers are all working, it's got solar power so we can get over the fact there's no petrol or what have you. And yeah, just as that system kicks in, just as the feedback loop works, a swarm of the creatures bursts through an unlocked gate. The base manages to defend itself, but obviously they see a few people die, and it's kind of a reminder that they're living right on the edge here, that, you can never get too comfortable, so they mourn the losses, but the base is well fortified. There's then a short passing of time, and the base seems to be thriving and operations are going well. There's like a round table of leaders discussing more trivial concerns within the city, no alcohol, no cigarettes, so-and-so had a party last night and they were out late, whatever. But then one of the people sitting there mentions this peculiar broadcast again that they heard last night, and it's coming from one of the old convoys, and it sounds like a call for help, but it was really staticky. It was really difficult to kind of hear it. So some of the leaders are like, well, we need to go out there. Some of the leaders are like, no, we're not going out there. They're all dead. But in the end, they decide to send a scouting party to go and find this team, and somehow they do. I haven't quite worked that bit out. Evelyn's in this team. Evelyn travels with this scout party, and she's a fucking badass now. The kids stay, and they're in the care of another family. So then the movie takes a bit of time with this squad of 3 into the wilderness, and they come across the convoy. Amazing. But obviously, as we expected, the convoy was slaughtered months ago. No one's alive. It's all decomposing and whatnot. And then they hear the radio call again from a car towards the back of the mess. When they head there, they discover something terrifying. One of these creaturey-like things has attached itself to the radio and has started using English language and can create like just basic calls on there. We don't get to learn much about this, however, because they quickly realise it's a trap. And what they are then faced with is 2 much bigger variants of the creature emerging from the shadows in complete silence. And, they kind of freak out silently. The 3 of them, they're equipped with like portable versions of the speaker system, and they go to use it on the big creatures, but it has no effect. They completely immune to it, and one of them's killed immediately, one of these 3 party. The other 2 run off, but the second dies trying to run away. The only way that Evelyn survives is through a very fortuitous grenade that she just happens to have on her, that she pulls, drops, and that explosion is enough of a distraction that she manages to get away. She gets back to the camp and runs straight to the leaders in sheer panic. Just as she's explaining what she saw, the power cuts out and screeches and screams can be heard everywhere. Through a window, the panic is kicking in as the creatures have attacked. The military dude is one of the leaders. Like, we'll introduce him through the play earlier, or through the film earlier. You know, that's for the writers to deal with, not me. Tells them that all the facilities have warning sirens that are used on a separate power source, not the actual solar system. The solar source. So him and Evelyn head downstairs. They find the sirens. They activate it, causing the balance of power to shift back to the humans. The creatures all start writhing in pain, and they manage to start killing a few of them. But of course, then the larger two rock up, and they're completely unfazed by this high-pitched noise. They're completely unaffected. They start slaughtering them. And basically what happens now, the humans essentially need to accidentally, flukily discover that it's not high-pitched noise that harms these two massive creatures, it's low-pitched frequency. So then you've got to completely shift all the dials, but they managed to work that out. I'm essentially running out of space and time to explain this, but ultimately human luck manages to kill one of them and they capture the other. So the movie ends with the dawn, sun rising on the base. There's death everywhere, but ultimately the humans have once again survived. There you go. Fucking Oscar-worthy that is. The silence says it all. That was a fucking masterpiece.
Does it though, Matt?
First question to you, as will be to Ross and already to Drew. Any new techniques? Are you keeping this a scary film? Are you changing the genre? Are we keeping the tension high? What are we doing?
Well, I'm moving more into the sci-fi genre of it, I guess, with new aliens and whatnot. But, you know, there's still plenty of room for suspense. That opening scene is basically all suspense with, you know, the silence and the cutting of the loud music, of the loud screeches and running. The scene with the three scouts in the, you know, by the wreck, by the mess. There's still plenty of suspense that you see in the first movie, utilising that concept again. But I'm moving this movie forward from a family because I feel like that movie was perfect as it was, pretty much. So I'm not even going to try and recreate another one that's just four. Like, the scale needed to be lifted for a sequel.
Okay, so we seem to lose the kids in this movie. Do they do anything?
The kids, again, we touched on this. We did kids in the first movie. I feel like, you know, we're moving. What we've essentially done here is Walking Dead Season 1 to Walking Dead Season 3, where we've introduced more characters, we've introduced the town concept and what have you. Evelyn's still a protagonist in it, but I kind of wanted to branch out into a wider, you know, what happens next, and ultimately the kids are still kids. So I'm not going to rely on that too much to tell another story. There's a bigger story to be told.
Okay. So I like the idea of the high elders around the round table. Is Evelyn part of that little group, or are we following a new character, or is this just the audience kind of looking in?
I haven't written in new characters. Like, there's going to be a load of new characters introduced. Like I say, the military dude who's part of the leading circle. Someone that goes with the scout trio can be a friend of Evelyn's or something. You know, like I've just essentially tried to cram a film into a page and a half. So there is room for more characters, but Evelyn is still very much a key character. She's one of the leading circle, yes, because ultimately it's her with the knowledge that this is how you kill them. She's driven by, you know, a love for Lee, her long-lost husband, and, you know, she's a real doer. She's got this new pragmatic sense to her where she just gets shit done.
So the introduction of all these new characters, are you just trying to get us to care for more people? Or
There's
is this
room
just
to
kind
care
of
for some, but there's still only, you know, you can, like you say, there's going to be some people that are helping them. And the more you introduce them, the more you kill off, the better, obviously, because you know it creates that sense of turmoil. But I think Emily Blunt is more than strong enough to carry a sequel on her own shoulders.
Okay, lovely. So let's talk about these new aliens then.
Mm-hmm.
Are they? What are they? How do they come to be? How do the stories know? How do people hear rumors that these are new mutated or
because
new
the convoys have not made it. So the fact that the convoys get attacked, there's people that are in communication with them, and they're screaming about them being much bigger or something. You know, they've captured one for science. If you make a third movie, you can probably do a lot more about whether it's evolution or whether they were always here and because there's bigger cities and bigger crowds, it's pulled out the bigger aliens. You know, I don't think you need to, in this movie, explain in great detail why they've come to be. You know, you've got scope for just the fact that as you up the ante, as the humans start improving their odds against them, there needs to be bigger jeopardy and there needs to be more risk. And the most natural way of doing that is creating an enemy more formidable than the one they faced in the first movie. We've seen it in every horror sci-fi movie ever, so...
Okay. I think I might know the answer to this question, but how do they find out the low pitch frequency harms the aliens? And if you say, I'll leave it up to the writer.
Say it, go on.
I just write the pitch, I don't write the script. No, I was thinking...
You're running out of room, I could see,
No.
so...
I was thinking, you know, it could be something like a car explodes and like the vibrations or something cause it, or it could be... I don't really know what causes something that low frequency naturally, if I'm completely honest. I'm not the... You know, I genuinely did just bring the pitch. I don't know the science behind it. But I'm sure Drew knows music and sound much better than I do. I'd call on good friends and industry professionals who know answers to this, and they would provide something. But it's going to be fortuitous because that's how these films play out. It's not going to be like some genius works it out as such. It's going to be someone realizes when they see what harms it and they go, shit, that's what we need. Crank the decibels right down, up the bass, down the treble, you know, that kind of shit. And that's how they do it.
Lovely. Brilliant. Okay, thank you very much, Matt.
Thank you.
We will come to our final picture for today, Mr. Ross Harmston.
Hello. Okay, here we go. The film opens with Evelyn panting and wheezing, and we see that she's just killed all the monsters from the end of the first movie. This is weird because Drew wrote the exact same thing. She is in a state of shock, just clicking her now empty gun. Once she collects herself, she goes through the house and looks at all the destruction. She reunites with the children, and then they bury Lee together. They travel to the waterfall that Lee used to take them to, and they have a wonderful, touching scene in which they all cry together. She then tells them that they have to keep moving, and it's not safe for them here anymore. Traveling through the forest, they eventually come out onto a small deserted town, but they need food, so they decide to scavenge. However, the boy Marcus steps on a dog toy and attracts a nearby monster. They have a fight with the thing around the town and end up in a music store. Evelyn sees a battery pack speaker. She grabs it, turns it on, and puts Regan's hearing aid to it, then smashes it over the head with the guitar. Whilst here, more creatures are attracted, but Evelyn doesn't have any bullets left. It looks like all is lost. However, almost out of nowhere, the army turn up. It's weird though. It's because there are at least 4 vehicles there and dozens of men, but they are all silent. Evelyn's like, what? They fend off the monsters, and then an army man comes over to them. It's Jake Gyllenhaal for some reason, and ushers them inside a vehicle. He starts talking to them, telling them that they have a base nearby and that they are very lucky that they were doing a routine stop. She's like, how are you so silent? He says, it's a long story. They drive to the base, and Evelyn and the kids see a huge dome structure. He says, welcome to a quiet place. The next half of the film is Evelyn and the kids learning loads of stuff from Jake. First, the army have created a sound suppression emitter that radiates a certain area and covers all the covers that area all in silence, so they can move around. Second, that the creatures are alien life forms that have been sent here by something that is in the upper atmosphere of Earth, and that they plan on attacking it very soon. And then they show her a rocket that will get them there. Anyway, bad stuff happens. Let's say one of the emitters fucks up because of a guy or something, and the whole base starts to fall. That's bit, I want it to be like Alien, and Evelyn being like Ripley type character. In the carnage, she locates Jake. He says, "We have to launch the rocket now." He sacrifices himself to send Evelyn and a few other soldiers up and away. The kids ask, "What are we going to do now?" And Evelyn says, "We're going to war." And then that's the end of the movie.
Fucking hell.
Oh, right. Okay.
There you go.
So, are we keeping the same genre? Any new scary bits? Same questions before, any
yeah,
techniques you want to bring to this?
No, I think the
Space.
not in this one. In the third one, probably. But yeah.
Rockets. Then.
Yeah, rockets. No, I think all the same sort of tropes of the first one, in the abandoned town, and then working on that sort of thing, and then in the final scene with Evelyn in the base that's falling, again similar sort of thing. Lots of the creatures, and using the same sort of thing.
Okay, lovely. So where have the army been then this whole time?
I don't know, somewhere off in the distance, somewhere, just in a base. Like, they've been walking for a while, and they just, it's just one army base. Well, it's quite big, I don't know. I write the pitch, yeah?
I mean, it's a good catchphrase when everyone starts fucking using it now.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Do they learn anything else from Jake that helps them out in the third act fight? Any survival skills, or say how to kill? Or are they just shown the rocket?
Well, he goes around there and he says, "Wow, you're pretty impressive to last out here on your own." And then they do like a thing where they say, "We weren't alone with my husband," and then he goes, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And then then they maybe go to like a little lab where they've got like a test subject of the creature there, and there's like drawings again, and maybe they talk about the alien and what they've learned, and that they've the alien's body and stuff, what do you call it? Well, like skin and the like stuff, and it's not known on Earth. It's no, what do you call it? What was it? What's the bloody name? It's not like a
carapace.
It's not like a form of thing from Earth. Do you know what I mean?
Extraterrestrial?
A non-terrestrial being.
No, I mean like the actual.
Why are we helping you?
I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, it's like calcium or something, like the actual like calcium.
The material.
Yes, that's it. Thank you, Drew. Eventually, I got there. The materials of the alien itself are not from this world, and I would have a little bit more explanation. Then they would maybe spend a little bit more time in there and build on the character. Maybe I did have a thing where the kids would like maybe react with other people, maybe other kids or like other teenagers that were found on their own, and it'd be like them because they've never seen anyone else apart from their own family. So yeah.
So they get taken to a dome which has a rocket.
Yeah. The dome is like a sound suppression dome thing. It emits a sound suppression, kind of like the silence spell in D&D 5e.
But they would have to build a dome, wouldn't they?
They did, and they lost a lot of people. He would explain this in the exposition.
How long does it take to build a rocket to go to space?
How long does it take? It takes 484 days or whatever it is to get all those bits. I don't know.
And they just had a.
It might not be a rocket. It could be It could be like a high atmosphere airplane or whatever. I don't know.
And does Evelyn take the kids on this space airplane at the end, or do they stay on Earth?
No. They all go with them.
Okay.
Yeah. The kids are going with them, and the little baby as well. So baby's in space.
Sure. Okay. I think that's enough from me.
Good.
Let's hear what you guys have to think about not only your pitch, but others. Convince me why I should pick you.
I mean, let's get this out of the way right now. Ross doesn't care. Ross doesn't want to win this week. Clearly.
Hey, I do.
Far-fetched and farcical. I agree with Drew completely.
It's like, I know there are aliens in this movie, but so during this global crisis where any sound draws horrific instant death creatures, they've developed magic. They've basically developed a
it's a
machine
sound
that
suppression
replicates a
emitter.
magic spell.
It's a sound suppression emitter. I already said.
That's not a thing. You keep
Yeah.
saying
So
like it's a thing.
So are aliens, but they're in the movie. So
Yeah,
there you
but
go.
an organic creature arriving from space
Yeah.
is like whether or not it's plausible, it doesn't. We are organic creatures that have originated somewhere in space, so that's a thing that can exist.
Yeah.
In
So
this
can a
real
sound
world.
suppression emitter.
But and yes, fine. So in your script it does, but that means your script is inherently ridiculous in a way that the first one wasn't.
Agreed, 100%.
There we go. I'll to pick on Matt a little bit. Calling it The Quiet Place is terrible SEO, search engine optimization. No one's going to go for that. Don't pick that. That's bad. I feel quite strongly Evelyn just leaving the kids to go off on this patrol doesn't fit her character in any
Her
way.
character's changed a lot. I make this very clear that she's now fucking rage monster. She's badass rage monster woman. Where, you know, as I say, time has passed in this town that they've created, and they've adapted a new life where she can still be mum, but she realizes that she's more than that now. She's got a legacy to fulfill, and
It
pick
feels
on
like such a shame.
no, it gives
To lose
empowerment.
that relationship with the kids.
The kids are still there. They just don't serve the purpose that they served in the first movie.
Yeah, they don't serve any purpose in the film
There's
whatsoever.
much bigger things at stake now. Much bigger things at stake than a few kids.
The first film, how are we going to save these kids? We must keep them alive. It's the most important thing. The second film, fuck these kids, man.
Halfway in my movie, there's a scene in a nursery that shows there's just like dozens of kids, so it's way more than 3 kids now. There's like 30 kids need saving. There you
There's
go.
like-
Fix that jeopardy. There's fucking shitloads of kids now that need saving. There you go, simple fix, right? Simple fix. Coming from the guy, right, considering the basis of the first movie being a sci-fi horror, the fact that the aliens just vanish in Drew's movie pretty conveniently. I love that he's
they don't.
going for an idea that actually humans are scummy too, but the fact that you put all of your eggs in the scummy human basket, very much, again, we'll talk back about Walking Dead, how they quickly suddenly went, zombies aren't really scary enough anymore. Humans, though, they're fucking scary. So I feel like that's what
think
you've
I
done.
made it
I
quite
think
clear
you've moved
that
away
the
from...
monsters are still around.
They're around, but
for
they
a
ain't
good
scary,
chunk
are
of the
they?
movie, and
They
being,
ain't scary in a prison when you've got talking and whatnot going on in a prison. And...
Yeah, in that bit of the prison, but then when they come and absolutely wreck shop at the
Yeah,
end
they
and
didn't really
murder
talk about
everyone,
that. You
they're
just
gonna be
talked about how
scary.
they went to live on the farm because the farm was nicer than the prison. There wasn't really talk
You
of the
not
aliens.
listening to what I said isn't a valid argument
No,
about what I
you
said.
were talking
being
about
bad.
how the people are the baddies. But I very much focus on mine are the enemies. My enemies are still the same. I've advanced them. I've given more jeopardy, and very much focused on the fact that humans are the surviving creature here. They need to
Pretty
rally
good
together.
though, you know. They can pick up English on a radio. Like I struggle
Yeah.
to learn any language, and they can pick it up on just by attaching
I mean,
themselves
they
to a
can
radio.
say one sentence, and it's because they heard them. You know, I've added evolution into this. This is an alien race that is far superior to humans.
I'm Mr. Alien.
Hey,
This is
hey,
Alien 1. Come in. Are you
Mr.
there?
Sound Suppression System, you don't get to talk to me about far-fetched and farcical things in these sequel pictures, okay? Don't even go there, pal. I ain't sending them off to space in a rocket to go and fight with babies in a spaceship. You know, that ain't my jam. I'm keeping it real.
Keeping it real, yeah. Keep it real, yeah.
I think mine is the only one that really that really takes the themes and story and what resonated the most strongly in the first one, which is the relationship between a family, and continues that and grows those characters along the journey that they were on in the first film.
I think mine
That's
pays homage to the fact that the first one is a masterpiece of that. And so why would I ever attempt to make a sequel movie in that same vein and genre when it has been so masterfully crafted the first time that I have to branch out and I have to expand, because it will never be as good second time round. Because Ross is right, the second album
Mine's still
syndrome
expanded.
is definitely the thing. Yeah, but you're still talking about the family ultimately.
No sequel movies, no sequels are ever better than the first one. Empire Strikes Back is way worse than Star Wars. Godfather
that's the
Part 2
fifth
is
one,
just
so-
a pile of trash.
Let's get rid of this podcast then. Forget it. Let's all go home. No sequels. I'm joking. I think you should pick mine because mine's a Cornetto trilogy. So there you go.
Fuck, Drew, we've lost, mate.
Oh, wait. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Has yours got clones in it?
It doesn't.
Oh God, let's bring this to an end. Jesus, all right.
I'm going to tell you after you pick the winner. I'm going to tell you all the ideas I had after that I didn't go for. But I'll tell you after.
I'm so excited for this.
Okay. Let's go on to the winner then. Let's announce the winner. This week's winner. It was close between two of you, but I've got to go with A Quiet Place Part 2. It's Drew who's the winner. I agree. You kept the focus on the family more than Matt's. I do like the bad people. I would put a little bit more aliens in because I agree a little bit with Matt. I think it is a bit human evil heavy. I do like that aspect, but we also do need to keep the aliens in there.
We'll have Evelyn and Reagan as enslaved prisoners who are refusing to do their bidding. They have to go on a supply run, and it's really scary, and there's monsters.
I like that. That's
Good.
fine.
That's
yeah.
okay.
And
So
I
long
like
as
the-
there's
the
one
aliens.
scene in a 2-hour movie that has the aliens in, you're fine.
All right, well done, Drew.
No,
Well
wait.
What,
Andy,
what?
you've got. I mean, you need to be a manager, mate. You need to give a little good point about everyone's. What was good about mine? You didn't say anything. Come on.
Come on.
That's a very good point, yeah. I ain't going to pick
Yeah.
you for winner again.
All right. Well,
Cloney
well,
McClone.
This is all getting very political.
No, I just want to know what was good about mine when you read it.
Yours was creative, Ross.
Oh, thanks, mate.
It kept me guessing right to the end.
That we've all heard that tone of voice when someone came to
Yeah.
see a crap play we were in, and they said it was interesting.
And what about Matt's? Go on, give Matt some positive reinforcement.
Matt's, let's have a look. So we lose the
Look,
kids.
I swear, I ain't
Purpose
fucking
of the
doing
film.
this no more. None of you ever fucking listened to mine, apparently. Oh, let's have a look. Let's just read it because I didn't fucking pay any attention to it. How have I
Reading my
won?
notes, you
How
dick.
am I
Calm
joint
down.
top winner when none of you fucking listen
Oh,
to
you're
my
not
pitches?
joint top anymore.
Yeah, it's actually Drew now. Yeah.
Well, now I'm not going to tell you what I liked about it. Just because.
Don't want to know. I know mine was
Drew,
the
what are we
best.
going to watch next week?
Wait, I want to tell you just before Drew picks, so you can have a chance
We
to
go-
have
okay.
a pick.
Yeah.
So-
I'll have a scroll.
At the end of my movie, I was going to have either Joaquin Phoenix in the shuttle, and then I was going to link it to Signs,
Fuck yes! Fuck yes! Winner!
or I was going to.
No, it was Mel Gibson in the rock.
No,
Fuck
but
off,
he
I
would have been.
wouldn't
He would have been.
see the
So my idea was that Signs happened. They checked things out, and those were the initial aliens that came down, and then the second aliens were the ones that hear really super perceptively, and then for some reason Joaquin Phoenix
But
later
would
on
he be an alien? Would the audience get that he's an alien?
No, he's not an alien. He's on the
just in it.
shuttle.
Oh,
he's a
right,
soldier,
okay.
and then like the camera will pan to him, and he goes, well, "My name's Merrill." And then it's like, what? Or I was gonna. You would not believe how much I thought about this. I was trying to link Bird Box, and I was like, I was gonna have them come across Sandra Bullock, who had her eyes like thing. Anyway, but yeah, those were the things that I tried to link, but it didn't work.
If you'd
I
have
would have
brought in
enjoyed
the
that.
sequel pitch metaverse by linking not just Signs but Signals,
great.
the award-winning sequel to Signs, by having the fact that he'd worked it out and this was New Age, I'd have bowed straight away. I'd have accepted defeat.
Right, where are we at? Yes, Drew, what are we going to watch next week? Have you found one yet?
Okay, so one genre which is a little underrepresented in our filmography thus far is fantasy. And so I'm going to set you guys a bit of a challenge and say, for next week, we're going to watch and you are going to pitch sequels for Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows
Fuck
Part
off.
2.
Oh,
Sick. Oh my god.
So the end of the franchise, basically, we have to finish it.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have to stay clear of anything in the books?
You can do. I'd rather. I'll say now. I would rather that
More
you
originality
didn't
than-
just go and
yeah,
buy the script for The Cursed Child and just do that verbatim.
Does it have to be between end of Deathly Hallows and before Cursed Child?
No, we can disregard Cursed Child because it's not It's not like cinema canon. At this point, we're treating Cursed Child like you treat the old Star Wars novels. It's a nice story that's there.
All right. Very, very exciting times. Well, unfortunately, that means we're at the end of another episode here at the Sequel Pitch Treehouse. Thank you to everyone who listened today, and if you like what you heard, tell a friend and share us around on Twitter and Facebook. Of course, thank you to our winner, Drew Toynbee.
Thank you. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you to Matthew Ruston.
You know I was
Rushton,
meant to
sorry.
win, and if you call me Rustin again, I'm going to punt you
Rustin.
in the dick.
Rusty.
And it's Ross Harmston.
Yeah, I should have won, but anyway, bye.
Lovely. I've been your host, Andy Henry. Boys, I love you, and I always have. See you next week.
Bye.
I hate you.